Hey guys, Reza here from Budget Audio Chrono. Today I will be bringing you the CCA CA16 PRO. This is a review that has been on the back burner for a while. I received the CCA 16 Pro about a week ago, and it's high time that I put in and kick in a review video for this pair of IEMs. A bit of disclaimer here, CCA Acoustics has kindly provided me the CA16 Pro as a review unit for an honest, unbiased opinion. And a little background, I reviewed the CCA CA16 in July 2020. It's one of my earlier videos. You probably can check out that video in the description below. And the CA16 had pretty solid bass, treble extension, resolution. Unfortunately, the mids was very recessed that you had to pump the volume up just to listen to vocals come above the mix a little bit more. Well, I'm happy to report that the CA16 Pro has solved this problem, with mids coming more forward in the mix and making vocals more enjoyable and accessible to the listener. So I did find that CCA did a much better job on the tuning of the CA16 Pro. But the question here is redemption near for the CA16 Pro based on the previous model? The price was about the same. The time when I bought the CA16 was about US $65 as well, Singapore $83 or so. Now these guys come out to about the same price as well. Now I'm just curious, when I received this, did it have a marked difference? Is it just about the same? The first thing that I took note of was the mids. The mids was much better. What you can do is you can look down in the description below to talk about my listening preferences and use case scenario. Those things will help you understand my listening preference and how I use IEMs. Mostly it's for commuting and not sitting down at home. So overcoming ambient noise levels and the train sounds, the humming sounds of the subway train is very important to me. Alright, so those listening preferences will steer my listening preferences to how I would like the IEMs to be used on a regular basis, yeah? And the audio chain for my test will be the Samsung Galaxy S10, UAP Tidal through the Loconnect CE0275 MQA dongle deck, and the 4C Audio N2 amp. So I'll provide the AliExpress links where I bought those amp and DACs. Alright, so those are not sponsored links, it's just where I bought them, so that if you're interested to know how I listen to, what I listen to in terms of the sound signature preference, those are the stuff that I listen to. Particularly, I've also put down below in terms of the albums used for the testing. I've been listening a lot to Bruno Mars and Evening with Silk Sonic. That's a great, fantastic retro sounding album, but probably not the best album for audio testing. So I went through the rest of the stuff like Daft Punk, Deadmau5, Majid Jordan, Dino Crawl, Struns and Farah, Parcels Live Volume 1. So those things are in the description below. Alright, so the CA16 Pro was tested on stock cables. Alright, and the KZ Starline tips. Alright, if you realize that I didn't put the stock tips because they suck big time, we'll talk about the stock tips a little bit later. Alright, so the overview of the CA16 Pro, it is a bright V-shaped multi-driver IEM with well-tuned mids for enjoying vocals in a mix. It is sold between US $63 to US $69 depending whether there are discounts, it's on 11/11 sale, or you can get any kind of coupons from the website below. Alright, so the CCA Acoustics has kindly provided with the link below for you to purchase the CA16 Pro. Alright, packaging and accessories. Okay, this is the thing that got my goat. Alright, for this amount of money, the packaging is super Spartan. You have this box, you have the IEM inside here. Alright, and if you realize there is no carrying case, right? So you're paying $63 to $69 with zip, nada, no carrying case. There's not even a cloth carrying case. TRN was able to do that with a US $45 IEM with the TA2 with the metal can. Alright guys, I understand stuffing more drivers in an IEM will cost more money, but hey, you know, KZ, CCA, could you just you know, help out with a little bit of carrying case, just in case you got a newbie hobbyist who's just getting into the hobby and wants something to carry the IEM in. Next, we'll talk about the ear tips. You have nothing more except this set of ear tips here, which are really lousy. Okay, so let me bring them out. All right, here we go. We have, out of the box, it comes with this elongated cylindrical style ear tip. Okay, yeah, these are made with very soft silicone, so I have issues with them creating seal on my ears regardless of the shape. So you have one pair of this cylindrical shape tips, 3 pairs, small, medium, large, of this bowl shape tips here. Okay, so this bowl shaped tips here, again, they are very short. Okay, you can see they are very short, and you will have problems with insertion depth with these ear tips here. Too soft to create a good seal, too shallow to insert well in your ear. So this has been a problem with KZ for quite a while. I think this comes with the TWS S2 as well. I really don't know what to do with these tips because they're really so bad and I don't use them at all. In fact, if you do use them, it will cause the mids to sound a little bit thinner, even more thin than what you'd like it to be. Okay, so yeah, KZ, CCA, please get yourself, you know, sorted out and put on at least this very basic Starline tips. Okay, all right, let's head on straight into build quality of the particular IEM. Build quality itself is very solid. You have this very cool faceplate here. I think faceplate itself by design is very good. Okay, they look fantastic. Looks really good. This piano black finish with the vents here looks a bit like Darth Vader's mask. All right, and I think they look very good, but the branding is a bit gaudy with the large CCA logo here. All right, nozzles, yes, that's the problem. Long nozzles with those shallow tips, somehow strange combination, just doesn't work for me, right? But overall, build and fit is actually okay with the Starline tips. Yeah, it's okay with the Starline tips. All right, and you see the details here. It says 1DD7BA CA16 Pro hybrid technology upgrade. Yeah, so I think the upgrade they're talking about probably is the tuning. All right, next we want to talk about the cables. I think they provided very good cables, and I was very impressed with what CCA did, or KZ did with the cables. These cables are super good. Okay, they are very tangle free, very comfortable to use. I don't like L-shaped plugs, but well, yeah, for this price, I think the cables they did really good, fantastic. Even the ear hooks was very comfortable. It was not too tight. It's not sort of the ear hooks that pulls the IEM out of your ears. Okay, so these guys are top notch in terms of cables. Okay, cool. All that fine is done. Let's dive straight into the sound. It is V-shaped with a bright edge. All right, there's no hint of sibilance whatsoever. Slightly boosted upper mids, just a little bit. So your mids have been significantly improved, meaning it has come in front of the mix. But you do get a little bit of that slightly, you know, hot edge, a little bit. Not annoying to the point, but you will hear that that edge. Yeah. Okay, and the mids are more pronounced than the previous iteration. You definitely will enjoy all your you know, classical acoustic guitars and everything, but again, as mentioned, there's a slight hint of that blare and glare. Okay, bass is all right. Bass rumbles down low. It's a full-bodied sub bass, but it doesn't carry over into the mid bass, so you don't get that roundness of the bass. So it's clean. You get a sense of a wider soundstage because of the definite excellent tuning of the sub bass, but mid bass body is not there, so you have a bit more spaciousness in that sound without that mid-bass bloat that's coming over to the mids. Okay, so bass is all right. Trebles, fantastic, good extension. There's a shimmer, there's a sense of space and air. I get the crisp crash and shine on the right cymbals on Dave Brubeck's Quartet Bossa Nova USA Live. Very enjoyable to hear in terms of all the brass instruments, right? I'm happy to report there's no hint of sibilance coming out of the CA16 Pro. Now, here's the thing to take note of: the timbre and note weight of the CA16 Pro. Alright, the timbre of the CA16 Pro, for example, alright, this is where it falls short of glory. The 7BA residing per side starts to show its colors where there's too many balanced armatures where you don't get a natural sound. Alright, so nylon strings on guitars end up sounding a little bit steely. So Struns and Farah's Fantasia album, a lot of the guitar work sounds not nylon-like, but rather steel-like, which is quite strange to listen where, you know, these are classical guitars, but it sounds rather metallic in nature. Brass instruments are still great. So for example, all the trombones, trumpets, all right, those things sound very okay, very good. But you know, acoustic instruments, guitars, pianos, they don't sound that good. Again, there's a hint of dryness as well, but it's not sterile in any way that you find it boring, right? Note weight is on the light side, and it's slightly thin, especially on acoustic instruments and percussion. So on percussions, note weight is a little bit thin. You don't have a sense of good drum hits, especially on the snare drums on Dave Brubeck's Bossa Nova Live USA. So you have issues with timbre and note weight. Probably the CCA 16 Pro is not for you. If you want a little bit more spacious sound, a little bit more crisp sound, probably the CA16 Pro is for you. The tone of the CA16 Pro is geared towards a bit more sub-bass, and on the bright edge with good emphasis on the mids presence and very faithful on the treble extension. So you have no issues again with good treble extension. Alright, although I did find that there's a little grainy sound overall. There's an overall kind of a grain to the sound. As an analogy, it's like using the film ISO speed 50 compared to maybe 400 or 800, and you get that grain, you know, a bit of specks on the image, which to me I find is kind of strange because this is a 7BA IEM. Image and detail retrieval is good. Imaging is fantastic. CA16 Pro is faithful, reproducing all the instrument placements and location in Fantasio. I have no trouble locating the drums, cymbals, tambourines, guitars, bass guitars, and other accessory instruments. So, and especially the maracas, you can hear the maracas going on very clearly on some tracks on the left channel. So fantastic. Well done, CA16, on the imaging and detail. Soundstage is wide as compared to tall, so you do have a larger expanse on the side of the soundstage. Again, when compared to the TRN TA2, the CA16 Pro has a much wider soundstage, and if you do enjoy you know, orchestra work, probably the CA16 Pro will be good for you. Now, I'm familiar with Struns and Farah's Heat of the Sun studio recording. Generally, it sounds a little bit tighter, more compact, but with the CA16 Pro, it gives the presentation with a little bit more lateral space. Drivability, the CA16 Pro can be driven from a mobile phone and a dongle deck fairly easily, but I did find that this CA16 Pro has enhanced dynamic range and soundstage with an amp. I personally use it on the 4C Audio N2 on high gain mode, so these guys benefit a lot on amplification, okay? But it is not as difficult as the Tanjim Tanya. Alright, we are coming to an end here over the next 3 to 4 minutes. Value wise, I think it's very subjective. As a package, I think the CA16 Pro could have done a little bit better, alright, with an extra set of ear tips, which is not the thin silicone type. You probably need something more solid like this, which holds in the ears a bit better. Next, please provide some kind of carrying case. I think your consumers, your customers will appreciate it a lot, you know. I think that you fell short on that area here, okay? So well, coming down to the pros and cons, here we go. Pros: excellent clean bass, good mids for an engaging session, nice and wide soundstage, above average imaging and detail, retrieval without being sibilant. But here are the cons. Slightly unnatural timbre for acoustic instruments, somehow a little grainy considering the multi-driver setup, can be a little bright for some listeners, and horrible stock tips, right? Okay. So in summary, the CCA CA16 Pro, though entertaining, doesn't have a distinguishing character. All right, what could make it better though? Right, for sure, better ear tips. I don't know about the driver count. More drivers doesn't mean better sound. We've heard single dynamic drivers like the Weezer HE01, which is just a few dollars more than the CA16 Pro. To me, the Weezer HE01 sounds better than the CA16 Pro just for a few dollars more. Okay, for a few dollars less, you can go for a simpler multi-driver setup like the slightly dated Tri-i4, but I do love the Tri-i4 sound. It's a lot smoother. To me, I think in terms of the overall tonality of the Tri-i4, it makes sound a bit dry, but to my ears it sounds a little bit better than the CA16 over here. The CA16 again comes off with that grainy nature to the sound. Okay, all right. So the CA16 Pro is not something that I recommend off the bat at this price. It might be a second choice. All right, I felt that even a dated IEM, as I mentioned earlier on, the Tri-i4 is of better value to me. If you want a little bit maybe more natural sound, single dynamic driver, Weezer HE01 to me is still one of the better choices within that US, you know, $70 range, $70+ range. It's Singapore $90 over dollars now to $100 for the HE01. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. Thanks again CCA Acoustics for providing the CA16 Pro. I do know that you guys want me to give an honest opinion, so here's my honest opinion, right? These guys are only okay. They are not out of this world, and there's still a lot of room of improvement for the CA16 Pro. That's it folks. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, take care, and enjoy your music.